In this video, we're going to attempt to make a battery box for the Street Legal KX100. This wasn't designed for a battery, so we need to create a custom solution. That doesn't sound very exciting, does it?
No.
This is a significant little job for me though, because it's going to be a challenge for my abilities and definitely the tools I have available. So, success or failure, hopefully it'll be interesting. This is the battery that we need to make an enclosure for. I chose this because it's small. There's not a lot of extra space to put things on here. It's also common. When I was looking for batteries, I noticed that this specification is made by a few different manufacturers, so if we need to get another one, that shouldn't be a problem.
With a name like Expert Power, you can't go wrong.
This was the absolute cheapest one I could find. You know how I don't like experts. They're too emotionally invested. So the best place I can think of to put this is right here underneath the seat inside the airbox. I chose this spot because the battery fits here, it's protected, and this is a traditional place to put a battery on a motorcycle anyway. The workflow that I've decided on to do this, you notice that professional terminology, workflow?
We are keeping it professional here.
Keeping it professional, always has been. Process for making this battery box is I'm going to create a pattern out of cardboard first, and when I get that right, we'll make it out of metal.
A prototype.
Prototype, there's another one.
All right.
Destined for success. I've spent some time out here already, and I've created something that will almost work. It just needs to be fine-tuned a little bit. If I have a piece of metal that's shaped like this, I put the battery in here and fold it just right.
Whoa.
I'll need to weld it somewhere too to hold it together.
Can you do that?
Well, yeah, don't you have a cardboard welder? So when this goes in here, it fits just right. The only problem is none of the 3 attachment points I plan to use intercept the brackets. This leg needs to move over about 5/8 of an inch. I need to create a tab off of this top edge that will connect to this bolt, and this side needs to be moved down by about an inch. So I've got some cardboard over here on the chair. How's that refinishing coming?
How's that motorcycle coming?
So I'll cut out a new piece of cardboard and make the necessary adjustments.
I am really impressed with what you made here with the cardboard.
Oh yeah?
That's amazing.
Thanks.
How many times did you have to cut that to get that shape?
Well, I think this is the first of this shape, but I messed around with some paper before that. So it's the second iteration. Spent a few evenings out here with it. Thank you though. Is that genuine?
Yeah, I appreciate you doing this.
All right.
You've taken your sweet time, but you're getting to it.
Can't just be a clean compliment.
It never
You
is.
need to wrap it with some thorns. So I'll kick out this leg a little bit, move this other part down to right here, get rid of the old one, and add that additional top mount. Aside from those specific modifications, my goal here is to keep all the other dimensions identical. It's no good if I fix one issue only to mess up something else in the process.
That's my favorite square.
It's actually a triangle. Why do you let me get away with jokes like that?
I love you too much.
And you laugh. That just encourages me. I'm not saying people shouldn't know their shapes, okay? But you need to help me get better. So all that's left to do on this pattern is straighten out the lines, pretend that it looks like a horse, and cut it out.
It doesn't look like a horse. It looks like a dromedary.
It's good to know the animals too, isn't it?
It is.
When you watch our videos, you don't even need nursery school. There. Okay, so that looks different from the first one. Let's see if it fits. Right down in here. Feels different. Okay, this is pushed over here. Need to trim off a little bit here so this whole assembly can go that way. A little compound angle about right here. Okay, I think that should work. Maybe. Doesn't seem right. It wasn't pushed against the air filter like that before. Here's the issue. I made the tray too wide somehow. Scissors. Where's my scissors? Where's my scissors?
So dramatic. They're on, I found them.
Oh. I need to make this cut a little bit deeper so I can refold the front of the battery box. Okay. The battery is a much better fit now. And it looks like the air filter isn't as crowded either. So I'm calling that good. As far as the mounting points, that one's right on the money. Looks like the tab in back is going to work. This one looks like I went a little too low, didn't I? Mm-hmm. I'll cut out another one from cardboard. This is why we do it in cardboard first. The system's working.
It is.
I need to be careful because every time I redo this, it gets bigger and bigger because I'm retracing the outline of my previous pattern. To compensate for that, as I cut this out, I'm going on the inside of the line. Hopefully it works out. Still not perfect. The tab shifted off center a little bit. Still alright down here though. And this part, which is what I meant to change, looks good. It's right in front of that bolt now. So I'll do one more really carefully out of cardboard just to make sure it's right. Then I'll switch to the hard stuff. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. I want this final proof to be very accurate. So instead of just tracing the shape like I did before, I figured out exactly what the dimensions of the part should be using the motorcycle and the previous pattern as a reference. I drew that on the cardboard and I'm cutting on the outside of those lines. This way, I'll still be able to see my diagram and it'll be easy to transfer onto the metal. Okay, first try with my 4th attempt at making one of these. I made some extra provisions on here for the 12-volt converter and the rectifier. I feel like since those connect to the battery, they should be mounted nearby. So I'll slide this in here. So far so good. That bolt is there, right in the middle where it needs to be. That one is where it belongs in this upper tab. Centered. Ho ho! I think that'll work.
I think so. So what's the next step?
Need to try to make it out of metal. This is 16 gauge steel sheet. I'll draw my shape on here and cut it out. I've discovered that if I trim just a little bit off of this part from each side, I'll be able to orient it this way rather than use up the whole piece. I think that's smart because I'll have enough material left over for a second chance.
Or you won't because it actually needs to be that size and now you ruined your whole piece.
I've already checked.
Oh ho!
And by the way, this is steel. That would be irony. Hoya! I really did check though. See, this part is small enough that I can trim a little bit off here. And on this side, the only thing that matters is that it's long enough to reach this mounting bolt. And it goes past more than ½ an inch, so it'll be fine. I'm only cutting off 1/8. Okay, modified part, fits on there. To get my design onto the metal without accidentally changing something, I'm drawing 2 perpendicular lines on here that correspond to certain lines on the pattern. And I'll measure off these to recreate the shape. So for example, I can figure out where this cut needs to be by measuring between my 2 original lines on the cardboard and transferring that over here. But I'll put a Sharpie mark first. Machinists do this all the time to get a visible scribe line. They don't use a Sharpie though, they use some kind of special paint. Okay, there's my duplicate line. Just need to repeat that process for all the other ones. It might be a miracle if I get this right the first time.
I don't think it will.
Highly suspect.
You'll get it right. And if you don't, you can just buy another sheet of metal and pretend you're doing it for the first time. They'll never know. Maybe this is your 3rd piece.
Why do you have to put unnecessary doubts in people's heads? I'm not like that. Also, in that event, I don't want to have to buy another piece of metal.
How much did that cost?
Take a guess.
I really don't know. $10?
$15. That has to be at least a 500% markup.
They got you.
They got me. The unwitting hobbyist is a valuable market. I'm about halfway done laying this out now. It's going slow though, and I'm getting buried in video files recording everything. So we'll do the rest of it like this. Okay, the blueprint is complete. I don't know how long the video's been going at this point, but this has been a marathon. We've gone through a lot of cardboard, a lot of bad jokes. The camera girl's been asking some serious questions.
Should I still be recording this?
Hopefully, I've got everything right here, and we only have to make it once. What I'd like you to do is hold on to this pattern, and as I cut out the part, pay attention to what I'm doing and make sure I don't take a wrong turn somewhere. And I promise I'll listen. I won't just tell you you're wrong and keep driving. Cutting. I'm using a jigsaw for this because it's what I have, and it'll do the job. But the disadvantage of a jigsaw is that it cuts in a reciprocating motion. And every time the blade goes up and down, there's a chance it'll bind up and take the metal with it. If that happens, the saw starts jumping around and you'll probably break the blade. Just like I did in the headlight video, right after talking about how to prevent it. To keep it from happening this time, I clamped the metal to the table to hold it down and got a finer tooth blade than before. Finest tooth blade I could find. Which hasn't broken yet. Ha! There's our part. Thank you for your help.
Of course.
Now we need to make some bends. The right way to bend sheet metal is with a brake. A good brake that could make the nice tight corners that I want for this costs more than I want to spend. And once it started to take shape, I couldn't make all the bends with a brake anyway because it wouldn't fit into the tool. So we'll go with what I know. Hammer and a vise. I've already done a little testing with some scrap metal, and I've noticed that on anything wider than about 2 inches, it gets really tough to form into a nice sharp corner. So I've decided that on these wider portions, I'll cut a nice little cheater slot to make it easier to bend.
It looks like you need more practice.
I let our son have a go at these two afterwards.
Oh!
We moved over here to the metal bending department. I want these bends to be sharp and good looking.
Oh, just like our car.
What?
It's a Benz that's sharp and good looking.
Nice!
Thanks.
It's hard to make accurate bends with vise jaws that are rough and irregular. I was lucky that we had some small magnets though on the refrigerator that fit perfectly into these screw recesses.
Oh, look at that.
And with those in there, I can stick on pieces of flat metal that have a nice sharp and smooth corner to bend against. So put this in here. The time has come for action. I need to share with you guys, I'm a little bit nervous at this point. The idea of making all these bends, getting them right the first time, and in the right order, because as this gets more and more dimensional, there's fewer places to clamp to. My confidence is waning. I'm still optimistic about it, but just a little bit unsure, that's all. It's windy in the metal department today, isn't it?
Yeah, how are your allergies?
The first bend I need to make is this really wide one. So I need to cut that little slot I was talking about earlier. Okay, let's make a bend. I'll put this in the vise so my scribe line, which is my guide for where I want the fold to be, is just barely visible.
No wonder you're nervous. This is going to take you forever.
There, got it. Tighten it down really tight. So the way I'll do this is, I've got a nice flat piece of metal that I'll put against the work and hit with a hammer until I get the angle I want. For this one, and almost all the others, I need to go all the way over to 90 degrees. Ooh.
Oh no.
So I had this clamped all the way over here, and I don't want to bend that much. I just want to go right there. So as we bend it, this part can swing the other way. The very first hit with the hammer was a mistake. Take two. much easier now. The reason I chose 16 gauge metal for this part is that I think it's a good balance of being thin enough to bend, but also thick enough to be sturdy and not too hard to weld. Almost. Almost.
I think you got it.
We'll all look at this for the first time together. I think that's all right, really.
Wow.
If somebody saw that bend, I don't think their first guess would be that we made it with this equipment.
Probably not.
That's a win. So smooth here, nice sharp corner on the inside. Let's see if we can do the rest of these now. This is the bend we just made, and I've marked out the order that I need to do the remaining ones after some revisions. In addition to making sure I get the sequence of these right, I also want to make sure I go in the right direction. If I do it the other way and then try to fix it, the metal will probably be weaker and it'll look awful. So I need to be aware of that.
Yeah, don't do that.
So we'll count these off. Number 1, upper mounting tab.
Shouldn't that technically be number 2?
From this point. You want to do it?
No.
Number 2, into the battery tray. Number 3 is the bracket for the rectifier. Number 4 will form the corner between the bottom and left side of the box. I decided to take a little break from the count because we just finished bending number 4, and it's a very important bend because it creates the length dimension for the battery. The critical test now is, will the battery fit into this tray? First try. Whew. If that didn't work, it would probably be another month until you guys saw a video from us.
It's still gonna be another month.
Another month.
You're slow.
Number 5, just a slight angle on this one so we have the right trajectory to the lower mounting point. Number 6, bring around the back of the box. Similar to how bend number 4 determined the length of the tray, this one will set the width. Whoa, that's turning into something. So we need to see if the battery fits in here and whether or not we're still in play.
Nice.
That fits. And the box matches up with itself just like it should. So, one bend left. Number 7, the mount for the 12-volt converter. When I was checking to see if the battery fit in here, I wasn't just exaggerating or being theatrical. I was worried about it because even though I measured, when you bend metal, it stretches and shrinks. Shrinks. So it was kind of a guessing game. Let's see if this fits.
I'm kind of nervous.
Me too. I don't even know if it will fit in here because paper flexed a lot more than metal. However, feeling pretty good about it. Okay, it's hung up just a little bit down on this corner. Do you see how the corner of the bracket is pushed up against the plastic of the airbox?
I don't know, that shows up.
Right down there.
Oh.
Need to trim off that corner.
Can you handle that?
I hope so. Otherwise, though, I think we're on the money. Maybe that to be sure. Okay, I got that piece trimmed off of there, and now our battery box fits very nicely inside the airbox. There's something else I noticed too when I was test fitting this. This mounting point doesn't line up exactly 90 degrees from the corner. It's offset, so I had to push that over a little bit. The next thing we need to do on here is weld this corner. The only thing supporting the battery tray right now are these 2 bends. So looking at it from this end, there's movement up and down and side to side. By putting a weld right here, it'll tie the whole thing together. I'm not an experienced welder, and I really don't want to burn a hole through here at this stage of the game. So I've been experimenting with some scrap metal, and I think I've figured out a workable technique. Made a nice foot massager too.
It's not a back scratcher?
Your choice. The first weld I want to do is this one. I'll start right here and work my way down. I doubt that I'll get all the way to the corner because the biggest risk when you're welding thin metal is melting through it. And from the moment I strike an arc, that risk gets greater and greater because of all the heat that gets dumped into the metal. So I might go halfway down and play it safe there. Unless I'm feeling lucky. Do you feel lucky?
Very.
Here we go! Didn't quite get the right angle. My weld is primarily on this vertical piece, not right at the joint between the vertical and the flat piece. So I'll have to go over it again. I think I'll start here this time and move that way. That was better. Okay, one final pass over the whole thing. I can do this all in one shot because I'm going on top of the other welds and the metal is thicker than before. I'll do the underside too and around the corner to finish it. Okay, my welds came out looking like toothpaste of the future, but that's okay. The metal is stuck together and I didn't put a hole through it. I'm happy to be at this stage. Everything else on here should be easy. The next thing I want to do is drill the mounting holes. I'll start off with the top one. To figure out where it goes, I'll measure where the bolt is on the motorcycle, put it in the box, and mark that position. Then I'll drill the hole. There we go. I got it pretty close to on center too. Usually when I drill, the bit likes to do the twist right out the side exit. Were you gonna say something?
I have no comments.
I'll put the box in here temporarily so we can see how it fits and work on the other two holes. I need to replace the original bolt with a longer one and a spacer so there's a flat surface under that flange. This is significant. First mating of the new part to the motorcycle. Are you blushing?
Could be.
Come on. Haha, perfect. It should be perfect. This is the 4th time I've done this. It turns out this tab needed to be bent a little more than 90 degrees. And then a little more and a little more than that. To mark where the other two holes go, I'll use this bolt that I ground down to a point. I'll screw it in from the back, push the metal against it on the other side, and as it makes contact, it should leave a little dimple. I'm worried about it though. I've always been okay at telling jokes, but never any good at impressions. Take this out now. Okay, well, the good news is it worked. Bad news is that hole's a little bit more to the side than I wanted it.
That looks good.
That one's good.
Troublesome.
I'll put this back in and just see if it's possible to move it over there just a little bit. It'll be fine. I can push this over more than enough to put the hole where it needs to be. So I'll hold this bracket in the new position and remark it. These little things are what delay us. Okay, I think I can make heads or tails out of that.
Just drill and don't ask any questions.
I'll drill and won't look back. How's that?
All right.
Okay. You think it'll work?
Oh, yeah.
Might take a little convincing. I think it'll work though too. I've got some bolts in here that are long enough to put a nut on the end of. Let's see. 1. All the attachment points are engaged. I feel good about it. You feel good about it?
I feel spoiled.
Oh yeah, this is your motorcycle. Forget that sometimes.
I know you forget that.
Do you see this? It's fitting.
It is fitting.
That's solid. Now I need to drill the holes for the converter and the rectifier so I can test fit those. I got both parts mounted on the brackets. Looks pretty serious. I think it's good. I didn't notice any clearance issues.
Looks like this is a problem.
I thought that might be a little bit high, but I put the seat on and there's some room under there. Good eye though.
Okay.
I can also still get to my fasteners and remove the whole thing as an assembly, which is handy because it'll need to come out every time we service the air filter. Assuming we ever even ride the motorcycle. You've been very patient.
I try.
To hold the battery in place, I'll use a rubber strap and this little artisan washer I created. I'll put one end of it right here, and for the other side, I need to turn this tab into a hook. This is the last bend and the last cut.
It's been a long haul.
Do you remember what I said when we started this video?
Weren't you aiming for a 2-weeker?
I was aiming for a 2-weeker, or less.
Oh.
Should be a quick one, I said. The battery box is functionally complete. I could call it done at this point and put it on the motorcycle, but we've put a lot of work into this. We've come this far. I think it deserves some finishing touches.
I agree.
I'll round off some of these sharp corners. I don't want you to cut yourself taking out the air filter.
No.
And we'll give it a coat of paint. Initially, I was just going to use some black paint I had on the shelf, $2 flat black paint. But then I realized that's boring.
And this is not a boring motorcycle.
And it wouldn't make a very good thumbnail either. So I got this instead. This battery box has taken much longer to build than I thought it would. But it's a great feeling of accomplishment when you start off with a vague idea in your mind and develop it into a physical realization of that vision. I'm thrilled with this thing. It's the most complicated part I've ever done, and it probably wouldn't even exist if I couldn't share it with people. If I didn't have an audience, I'd probably just take the battery, strap it up to the frame right there, and call it good. It'd work fine, and I'd have a month of my life back.
6 weeks.
But it looks awesome! I created something that pushed my limits, and I'm so proud of it that I'll probably stay out here for a while after we're done with the clip just to admire it. So thanks for the motivation. Thanks for watching.